My name is Antonio. As they said, I work in US Tax Consultants, and I had this very short presentation, thinking especially on even if we work for expats, I mean, all kind of people living in Spain, and then that's why we also do Spanish taxes. But we are centered in the US taxes. We have been doing it for 65 years now. Um, so I'm not going to talk about the dual citizens and the accidental Americans because I realized by the list of people in the in the webinar that I mean you are all probably all Americans. But anyway, if you want to ask any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. Um, you have to remember that all U.S. citizens and what is called U.S. person, all citizens and green card holders and residence aliens, which are the people that live in the U.S. Um, they have two different tax obligations or fiscal obligations, which are the to file the 1040 and also the FinCEN 1114. The FinCEN 1114 is just a report of the accounts that you have outside the United States, and that's it. I mean, this is something that comes from, I don't know, 1970 that Nixon signed, and then they haven't changed the thresholds, and then it's still a threshold if you have the aggregate amount of your maximum balances of all the financial accounts that you have abroad is more than $10,000, which I think that is very, very low. And then obviously almost everybody has to do it. That is not reported to the IRS, it's reported to the FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and that's, I mean, there's no other big issue on that. As I said, these fiscal obligations are for the U.S. person, U.S. citizens, green card holders, and resident aliens, and then they are required to file annually, regardless where their income is earned, where the world they live, and whether the U.S. has a tax treaty with that country, and whether also if they pay foreign taxes. So everybody has to file the 1040, the individual tax return, and you must report worldwide income, exactly the same amount that you report in Spain when you do the Spanish tax return. If you live in Spain as a resident of Spain, this is what you have to say, as what you have to do, as Lucia explained us before. The U.S. persons, I mean, the deadlines, which I think is important, is that you have to pay all the taxes by April 15th. There is no extension to pay the taxes. You have to be sure that you pay everything that you owe the IRS that for the previous year before April 15th. But anyway, the tax returns, the deadline for filing, really, even if normally everybody says that it's April 15th, for all of you that lived in Spain, well, if you live in Spain, it's June 15th. Okay, it's automatically this extension, and then you can apply for an extension and all the way to October 15th. So this is what we do for all our clients. We always ask for the extension because we never know if there's going to be enough time to file the Spanish taxes first. Then there are two things that, I mean, two tools that the U.S. law give us to overcome the taxes that you have to pay in Spain, which is the foreign earned income exclusion, that basically reduce, or you can exempt $130,000 out of your earned income, but only earned income. It doesn't include pensions, and it doesn't include interest, dividends, and capital gains. And the other thing is that you might live in another country, so you might be abroad. The very normal thing to do is use the foreign tax credit, in which you can deduct all the taxes that you have paid in another country, deduct them from your US tax return, and with the 1116, which is the foreign tax credit, and then offset all those taxes. So that's the way of avoiding paying taxes in both countries. Okay. I think this is one thing that normally is very important for everybody to know, is that the child tax credit, if you have dependents up to 17 years old, you get a refund of 1,400, even if the credit is 2,200. But really, what you can get back is the $1,400. Okay. For those that have been in Spain and they didn't know that I have to file the taxes, the IRS offered them the streamlined foreign offshore procedure, which basically has some specifics that you have to comply with. That is living abroad, but not filing. Well, I mean, of course, if you're not if you are filing, you don't need to do the procedure, and that you are not aware of the obligation. That's happening because now, since there is an exchange of information, banks in Spain, usually they ask you if you're American, and if you say yes, and then you don't sign the W-9, then automatically the Spanish banks, they block your accounts. And that's why there are a lot of people that they find out that they were Americans, and they have to do that. Basically, the streamlined procedure is you have to report the last 3 years of 1040s and the last 6 years of FinCEN, the FBARs, and state in a statement that you are non-willful. I mean, that you didn't know that you have to do that. I know, because I hear some of the conversations that you have there about the military pensions, and I know that some of you went to our office in Rota, in the base that we have there, which you probably talked to Rick, Richard Griffith, and then let me add something that is not in the presentation, because I didn't know that we were going to be that one. I want to say about the pensions. According to the treaty, the public pensions are exempt in Spain, in the Spanish tax return, as long as you are not Spanish. And a public pension is considered a pension that is received from a work in the administration, in the US administration. Okay? So that's what is considered a public pension. That's why Social Security benefits are not considered a public pension. And then Social Security benefits, they're fully taxable, 100% taxable in Spain. Okay? And there is another, I mean, it's not only the agreement between Spain and the United States, the agreement between the Spanish and the United States on to avoid the double taxation is the only one that is in place. There is another one, which is the agreement of the Armed Forces Agreement, in which it says that pensions and salaries of militaries are exempt in Spain. So if you have a salary from your as a military, you don't have to declare that in Spain, and the same as with the pensions. But I mean, that is for the militaries, not for the wives or the spouses of the militaries. Okay, so that is important. So I know that some people ask for that, and that's what I'm just insisting on saying that. But you can ask any other questions, and then we will answer them. You can call the office, you can call me, you can, even if you are a military, you're in Rota, you can go to the Rota and talk to Richard, and he will handle the question or whatever to us. Okay? And that's it. I don't have anything else to say. So I think that I would like to introduce you to Bruno, which is our next presenter, and then he's going to talk about investments of Americans, which that I know that I'm sure that he will say it, but I mean, it's very important from the tax point of view, because some of the investments that you can do in Europe are penalized by the IRS, and then you cannot invest on anything, not on everything that Spanish banks can offer you. Okay, so I'm sure that Bruno will explain that to us. Thank you, Bruno.